This is a lost episode that was never aired on TV. It all began on a normal day. Peppa lost one of her baby teeth. "Hooray!" she shouted, "Dad. Now the tooth fairy will bring me a gift." Mummy Pig smiled. "Put the tooth under your pillow, dear. There'll be a surprise in the morning." That night, Peppa woke up. The room was dark, but something felt wrong. She heard a crunching sound from under her pillow. When she lifted it, the tooth was gone, but there was no gift either. Only a strange white lump, like it was made of bones. The next day, George complained about a toothache. Then Mummy Pig, then Daddy Pig. They all said, "Maybe we ate something bad." That night, Peppa woke up again, but not from the crunch. This time, from breathing. Someone was sitting by her bed, a figure, gray, far too tall, with long arms and a grin that stretched ear to ear. "Do you brush your teeth well, Peppa?" it whispered. "You give them to me, one by one, every night." Peppa screamed, but no one came. George was asleep with his mouth open. His front teeth were missing. Mummy was standing in the hallway, smiling. On her cheek, a white patch like bone powder. Peppa ran to the mirror. On her face, new teeth were growing, but not hers. A third row, sharp, wrong. She ran back to the bedroom. Everyone's teeth were falling out, more and more every second, and someone stood in the corner. That same figure, but its face. Oh God. The candy. When Peppa became a teenager, everything started to change. Friends drifted away. Her parents became annoying. And one day, while standing alone behind the school, a man in a blue cloak approached her and held out a box. "Try it. These aren't just candies. They feel like being loved." At first, Peppa didn't believe him, but the candies really did something. After the first, she laughed until she cried. After the second, she felt loved. And after the third, the world became soft and warm, like childhood. She started selling them to classmates. Everyone wanted them. Everyone paid, even the teachers. Her mother asked, "Where did you get this money?" Peppa just shrugged, and Daddy Pig said, "You know sweets are bad for you." A week later, George disappeared. He never came home. Peppa found one of the candies in his room, but it had turned pitch black. Later, she learned each box can only be opened once. If you open it again, you must give something in return. Peppa opened it a second time, but there were no candies. Inside was George's head with crosses over his eyes. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. "Open up, police!" The face in the corner. This deleted episode was never aired on television. Something caught Peppa's attention. She stopped and looked toward the corner. In the corner of the room, near the ceiling, a blurry face appeared. It was barely visible, like a shadow, but its expression was cold, lifeless. It stared at Peppa, as if studying her every move. Peppa froze, unable to look away. The shadows on the walls began to shift and twist, as if they were alive. Her heart started beating faster. Something was wrong. Something was there that shouldn't have been. She stepped forward, trying to understand what was happening, but the face didn't vanish. It became clearer. Now it was right in the top corner of the room. Peppa felt the air grow colder. Darkness began pulling her toward that corner. At that moment, Daddy Pig entered the room. He looked at Peppa and George with surprise, but his voice sounded strange, low and distorted.
"What are you two doing here?"
Daddy Pig walked toward the corner where the face had just been, but now it was gone. Instead, the shadows became more sinister, and the air around them thickened. He touched the corner, and something horrifying began. His face started to change. His eyes darkened. His arms grew long and misshapen. His voice turned into a deep echo from the dark corner.
"Now I can play again."
Peppa and George tried to back away, but the shadows had already filled the room, and the walls began to ripple. A strange, unnatural music filled the air, making everything around them feel alive. They tried to escape, but the door was locked. The room began fading into darkness, and the music grew louder, swallowing them whole. We can't get out," Peppa whispered, her voice consumed by the shadows. Darkness swallowed everything. The shadows on the walls grew unimaginably large, and the sound of the music became unbearable. Peppa and George stood in a void, surrounded by the shadow. In that dark nothingness, they realized they couldn't leave. Everything around them was part of the emptiness. The music never stopped. Are we here forever? Peppa on George. George was sitting still, his skin turning gray. There was mold on his hand, and it was moving. By morning, George was gone. In his place, a strange, soft figure. It looked like George, but it was breathing through gills, and mushrooms were growing from his shoulders. Mummy Pig didn't react. She looked at Peppa with wide, glassy eyes. "Breakfast is ready, dear." Peppa locked herself in her room, but the mold was already there, on her bed, on her toys, and on her arm. There was a small mushroom sprouting from her cheek. She touched it, and it twitched. Everything behind her, a forest of moving, breathing fungi. And in the center, the frog, sitting, smiling, waiting.